And we're back inside Tennessee. Real quickly, let me describe the configuration of the 2nd Congressional District for you. It is a little bit of this and a little bit of that in East Tennessee. Of course, it includes Knox County, part of Loudoun County, Blount County, Jefferson County, Granger County, and then goes all the way up to the Kentucky line at Claiborne County. So a little bit like that. All right, Don Bosch, throw a question in for us for our guest,
Sure.
Mark Harmon, who's the Democrat.
Well, quick comments, Mark, in talking about education funding. When all of us went to school, and even when Susan was taking notes on papyrus, student loans were 5 or 10% of your income of your job, and now we're seeing them reach well over 50%, and that's a big difference. And then two, most of the people I've been hearing complaining about the loan forgiveness and Pell Grant forgiveness took out hundreds of thousands of dollars in PPP loans that they never had to pay back. So I do think there's some equities in trying to help people that need it on the front end. But pivoting from that, you were a county commissioner here for 4 years, if I believe, maybe longer. You worked under and with, pardon, 6?
No, 4. It was 4.
4 years, you're correct.
4, okay. Yeah, you worked with and under County Mayor Tim Burchett and had a good relationship with Tim by all accounts and what it seemed.
I need to correct you there. I was under Ragsdale.
I'm so sorry.
I did have a good relationship with Tim Burchett. We knew each other. We had spoken several times. So let me just correct the record there.
He was still in the State House then, in the Senate?
That's right. And I blended time. It all gets away from us once in a while. But what's changed, Mark? What do you think has happened in the differences in the ideologies between you and Tim? And why do you feel like, Tim's very popular, but I support a lot more what you stand for, particularly as a Democrat, than what Tim has stood for. And frankly, all I see Tim standing for is standing against, not for very much. What's changed? Why do you think you should run and replace Tim Burchett?
Well, I think a lot of people who previously voted for Tim Burchett have begun to have second thoughts, and they're thinking, gosh, this guy went to the swamp and became just another swamp creature. There's a certain coarseness of the discourse. He's just become yet another apologist for extreme policies, denying women's rights. I mean, I went into this race initially because Tim voted against the peaceful transfer of power. The day after January 6th, he twice voted not to recognize the votes of 2 states. I found that appalling. I found that disturbing. And the more I looked into his record, the worse it got. Yeah, he definitely votes against a lot of popular things, extending the protections of the Violence Against Women Act, the Asian Pacific Hate Act, just item after item, the bipartisan infrastructure bill. And the lame excuses are just pure partisan hackery. And it's disturbing. And I started out on my website with 1 page of bad Tim Burchett votes, and I'm now up to about 4 or 5 pages because the record keeps getting worse and worse. And no matter how much he puts on a Carhartt jacket and engages in some sort of aw shucks faux populism, it's beginning to dawn on people that he's just another corporate shill making excuses and voting against their interests. And if he wants to object to that, well, there's a missing box here. He has been invited to be on this program. He should have been on this program. He was invited to be on the League of Women Voters debate. He turned that down. There was a debate sponsored by the USA Today network newspapers. He didn't show up for that. He's afraid. He's cowardly ducking opportunities for a head-to-head comparison. I don't think he can defend his record.
I will echo, we did invite Tim. He's been on here many times before. We did invite him to be on the show. Susan, you got a question? We have about 2 minutes left.
No, but I will defend Tim Burchett a little bit. Commissioner, as a Republican, I guess, person who has worked in politics my whole life, and I was a state party chairman, you always tell your candidates not to debate if in fact when you're running in the polls ahead by 10 points or 15 points or something.
Susan,
there's no need to.
That is strategy and not service. I'll tell you what. Work it this way. If I get the honor of being,
it seems to work.
Well, yeah, sure, but working is not the same as serving the public. So what I would challenge everyone to say, if I become an incumbent, just watch me show up and debate. I've been a debater all the time. I was on my college debate team. I'm not afraid of any challenge, any competitor. I am more than willing to debate ideas head to head with you, but I prefer to debate it head to head with the person who's actually on the ballot opposite me.
Mark, we do have about 1 minute left, and I did want to ask you about the whole issue of women's access to health care, the abortion decision this summer. That's something Tim Burchett has said he supports and said it was a good day for America when that decision came down. You've been critical of him.
Yes. Well, he not only is against women's right to choose, he even joined a lawsuit in support of the awful Mississippi law that our extremist court used to overturn Roe. I believe Roe was law of the land, good precedent for 50 years. We're taking away a right of American women. We should not interject any level of government between a woman, her healthcare provider, and their choices. It's just not the right thing to do. It's not practical. It's not moral. It's not the right position to take for anyone. But the women of our country deserve better than what Tim Burchett is delivering on this issue. And I stand firmly pro-choice and think he is wrong, and he is making choices that harm women.
Mark Harmon, we appreciate you being on the show, Democratic candidate for 2nd Congressional District, along with the GOP incumbent Tim Burchett. The election is November 8th, and early voting starts in about a month. We've got to take a break. When we come back, the panelists and I will talk a little bit about this race.